we have multiple types of flours. There's some corn flour in here. This looks to me like liniment flour. So what I do is I mix about 4 cups
Okay.
of flour. And since the corn does not contain a lot of gluten, so the corn makes the dough very crumbly, I would only put like about 1 cup in there. Okay, corn flour. So this is 3 cups of iron corn flour.
Okay. 3 cups iron flour.
I like liniment, and then I would put 1 cup of corn flour in here. We have to add some salt.
Salt.
I usually add about a teaspoon or something.
Okay.
Don't really take exact measurements. And then we can add some spices to this.
Which spice?
Like, well, depends a bit on what you like, but I usually add some coriander to it, or cilantro seeds, whatever you want to call them,
Okay.
because that helps with the digestion. Like a little bit of rosemary.
Okay.
And we can put some fennel in there, because it also helps with the digestion. The fennel seeds. These are our own fennel seeds.
Nice.
I mean, the taste is quite strong, so we won't add too much to it. And then we can add whatever we want. Maybe some rosemary. I mean, you can add flavors if you like. You can also keep it plain.
Okay.
Or just the spices for digestion. This to our mixture as well.
Smells it.
I really like it. Mix this a little bit. And now we have to add some water to this.
Warm water.
I usually do a bit of warm water because our sourdough starter is from the fridge.
How warm it?
Is it too warm?
Okay, so it shouldn't be.
It shouldn't be too warm, because then the bacteria in the sourdough starter won't really like it.
Can I try?
You can try it. Just...
Okay, it's warm.
It's like warm, but it's like not hot.
Okay, yeah.
And I add this to here. And usually I add about 1.5 cups.
Okay.
But I would keep this last cup more aside, so I can just add when needed. Because if you put too much water in it, then I make sure that I prepare it. Make sure you have clean hands.
For drinks?
remove your jewelry. And one last thing we have to add is our sourdough starter. So this has been in the fridge, and we feed it about every 3 days. And make sure you don't touch this with a metal spoon, so I'm using a wooden spoon or a plastic spoon, because the bacteria in the sourdough really don't like having a wooden spoon. And you would put like a scoop of this in here as well. Maybe a bit more. You just need a little bit so it will start to kickstart the dough. And since we already have a dirty spoon in the dough, I will feed it now as well. So you feed it every 3 days, with like an equal amount of water and an equal amount of flour. And we feed it with rye flour, because it has a high amount of sugars in there. So the bacteria really like this. So this one is ready to go back into the fridge. Let's not waste this starter. And you put the starter in the fridge with like a cover. This can be a paper towel, or we have like some sort of fabric, just so it can breathe. This one is ready to go in the fridge. And now this is ready for some kneading. I mean, you could do this first with a spoon. Make sure your hands don't get too dirty. Keep the flour in the pot. But I don't know, I usually go in with my hands, and since your hands will get dirty anyway. So for this I just use my fingertips, otherwise my whole hands will be covered in this wet stuff. Now it's come a bit more together. I think I need it a bit more. And this is also the moment to add some more water. As you can see, there's still a lot of dry stuff in there, and this is already getting quite firm.
Should I?
So, oh yeah, I can add a bit of water to it. If you need it for a bit longer, then the gluten that are in the dough will release. Let me take up some water. And I usually experiment a little bit with how I make my dough. Like now we added corn flour, but you can also add rye flour or buckwheat flour. And like you can do it half or...
Okay, so like I can experiment whatever.
Yeah, you can, but if you're just gonna do it with only corn flour, it's probably not gonna work.
Okay.
And with the amount of water, like I usually have my dough a bit wetter. I kind of like how this dough is forming. So maybe I'll just keep it a bit drier and see what that does to the bread. I think kneading would be anywhere between 5 and 15 minutes. I guess it looks quite nice. There's not that much dough left in the pot, so I always like this. Now I will just let it rest for a little bit. So the sourdough
For how long?
can be activated. Well, I would leave this until the evening and then we can form it. So we can prepare it overnight, and then overnight it can just rest on the counter. I mean, it's quite cold in here in the evening, so it will be the process in the dough will be frozen about, so tomorrow morning we can bake this baby.
Okay.
To store this one for the day, it's nice to cover them with, I always cover them with a wet towel, so the dough will stay moist, because otherwise she can have like this dry crust on top of your dough, which I don't really like. I want to keep it nice and fresh. That's why I always use a wet towel. Right. Put it over the bowl. And now make sure to put it somewhere where it's like, not like warm, but it should be at least room temperature. Should be relatively warm, so maybe we can find a place near the fire. I think the oven is now like quite cool. So we can put it in here. And at the end of the day, it should have risen like quite a lot. Usually say it has to be doubled in size. So hopefully that's what we'll see at the end of the day. Well, let's see what it looks like. As you can see, it's a little bit bigger. I think we could have added a bit more water to it. But what we should do now is knead it again. You can see at the bottom that there's quite some aeration in here. And for sourdough bread, there can be a lot of very complicated methods where you have to fold your dough a few times a day and to like maximize the aeration in there and to form your dough in a specific way. But since we don't use any normal wheat in here, we only use einkorn or limit, which is like an ancient form of wheat. There's like not that much gluten in it, so we like to use it because it doesn't have that much gluten in it, but it also makes the dough a lot less elastic. So you can spend a lot of time on forming this dough, but it's never gonna have that big of air bubbles in there as you can expect from a store-bought sourdough. But this is also a lot less work, so that's nice. So the dough is now ready to sit for the night. But I like to put it in a separate bowl, so if it rises, it forms inside the bowl. Because if this one will rise, it will rise that way. And I prefer to have it a bit higher. So let's find a bowl. It's quite a nice size. But never put it like this directly into the metal bowl, because then if you're gonna remove it tomorrow, then you're gonna break the whole dough again. So I like to put a towel for food in it. I mean, not use this one because it's wet and the dough is gonna stick to it. But we can put it in here, put a little bit of rice flour in it, which really makes sure the dough doesn't stick to the towel as well. Let's go get a towel. Ooh. I like this towel, it's very thin. Put it in here like this. Now we can search for the rice flour. Yay, nice. We found it. So this is not really rice flour. It's more like a polenta, so it's a bit coarse, but I mean, it will do the trick anyway. So I just sprinkle a bit of the rice flour in here, just to make sure it doesn't stick. And I usually like to roll my dough a little bit in the hope that it improves the stretching a bit, but since I said it's not high in gluten, I try to make as much tension as possible in this upper part. And I'll put it with like the part that I stretched a little bit. I will put this one down. So this is the part that I sort of closed. And that's it. Now we can let it rest for tomorrow. And we have to discuss with the person who is cooking tomorrow that they put the bread in the oven. And then hopefully we have nice warm bread at lunch. So let's clean up.